The phenomenon of Taylor Swift is not what it looks like. People think it is about fame, talent, or timing. But if that were true, thousands of others would reach the same level. They don't. Something else is happening underneath the surface. Here is the real question that defines everything. How does one person keep expanding success in an industry where most artists peak once, reach fame, and slowly disappear? There is a pattern here that most people never analyze deeply enough. The common explanations are always the same: talent, luck, timing. But those variables exist for almost everyone in the industry. They explain entry, not dominance. They explain moments, not decades of control and growth. At 14, she made a decision that already separated her from most people. She moved to Nashville, the center of country music. Not because success was guaranteed, but because proximity increases probability of opportunity. Early in her career, she was offered contracts, but those contracts came with limits: less ownership over her music and creative output. Most beginners accept this as the price of entry. She did not. Instead, she chose a smaller opportunity that gave her more control. This decision did not maximize short-term exposure. It maximized long-term leverage over her own work. She began writing her own songs consistently, not as a branding strategy, but as a structural choice. This gave her something rare in the industry: narrative ownership from the beginning. Her early success in country music was real and stable. She had audience growth, recognition, and industry support. At this point, most artists optimize and stop changing direction. But she did not optimize for stability. She optimized for expansion. This is where she made a critical shift that looked risky from the outside, moving from country to pop music. The album 1989 marked this transition. It was not a safe evolution, it was a structural reinvention. She risked losing her existing audience to access a larger global market. Instead of losing momentum, the opposite happened. The transition multiplied her reach. She moved from genre success to global dominance across markets and demographics. Albums began breaking records. Streaming numbers increased massively. But these outcomes are not the real story. They are just visible results of earlier decisions. Later, a structural problem appeared: ownership of her early master recordings. She did not control the original versions of her work. This created a long-term leverage issue. Most people respond to this type of situation emotionally or legally. They attempt to recover what was lost or negotiate directly for restoration of control. She chose a different approach. Instead of focusing on recovery, she focused on replacement. This is a key distinction in strategic thinking. She began re-recording her earlier albums under the name Taylor's Version. This was not repetition. It was reconstruction of value under new ownership conditions. At first glance, this decision seemed unnecessary. The original songs already existed and were widely consumed. Recreating them seemed redundant. But the purpose was not duplication. The purpose was migration of attention, streams, and cultural value from assets she did not control to assets she did. Over time, the new versions began competing directly with the originals. Audience behavior shifted gradually toward the versions she owned. This created a rare outcome in modern music: a partial replacement of legacy content with newly controlled versions without losing cultural relevance. While this restructuring was happening, her career scale continued increasing. She was not repairing decline. She was expanding while restructuring simultaneously. Then came the Eras Tour. This was not just a concert series. It was a full system representation of her entire career, compressed into a single global product. The tour became one of the highest grossing in history. But again, the financial outcome is secondary. The real insight is system design at scale. Each phase of her career followed a repeatable pattern: enter, build, gain stability, then intentionally disrupt that stability to expand further. This is not random behavior. It is a consistent decision-making framework applied across decades. It prioritizes control over comfort and expansion over stability. Most people optimize for safety once they reach success. They protect what they have built. She repeatedly does the opposite. She treats stability as a signal for change, not a final destination. When a system becomes predictable, she restructures it. This is why her career does not plateau in the traditional sense. Each plateau becomes a trigger for reinvention rather than stagnation. From the outside, this creates an illusion of inevitability. It looks like continuous upward momentum without resistance or interruption. But internally, each transition contains risk. Every major shift could have resulted in loss of audience, income, or relevance. The decision to leave country music, the decision to enter pop, the decision to re-record her catalog, none of these were guaranteed to succeed. Each move was a calculated trade, short-term risk in exchange for long-term structural advantage. This is where most analyses fail. They evaluate outcomes, not decision conditions. Outcomes always look logical after they succeed. But the real insight exists at the moment before certainty, where decisions are made without knowing results. In those moments, most people choose preservation. They protect existing success. She chooses transformation. This creates compounding structural advantage. Each reinvention does not reset progress. It builds on previous layers of control. Over time, this produces a system that adapts faster than it stabilizes. Stability is temporary by design, not by accident. This is why her trajectory appears unusual compared to other artists. It is not linear growth. It is controlled expansion through cycles of disruption. And yet, from the outside, it still looks simple. Albums, tours, fame. The complexity is hidden in decision structure, not output. Most people assume success is about reaching a level and maintaining it. Her model is about reaching a level and redesigning it. Now we return to the original question. How does someone keep growing when most people plateau, stabilize, or decline? Why does each phase of her career not end but transform into a larger version of itself? Why does nothing stay final in her trajectory? The answer is not external. It is not industry conditions or timing. It is internal decision architecture applied consistently over time. She does not optimize for maximum short-term success. She optimizes for maximum control over future possibilities. When control is threatened, she does not restore the old system. She builds a new one that makes the old system irrelevant. This approach removes dependency on external approval or recovery mechanisms. It replaces reaction with reconstruction.